Thank you for joining us today. We are very happy to have you on our little round table, as we call it. Could you do like a little introduction for us? Tell us a little about yourself and your company and what you do.
Well, yeah, thank you very much for taking the opportunity to speak with me. So my name's James. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Ziva Dynamics. We're a software company. We have a distributed team, but most of the team is based in Vancouver, Canada. And we're focused on, solving all the challenges to make, very realistic, interactive virtual characters and creatures. And this is to sort of answer the use cases for artists who are making things in film or in games. And we believe that our fundamental, underlying technology will have applications in other verticals as well.
Mm. So just to give sort of like a little update to the users who might not be familiar with your tech. So basically what you're doing is that you're simulating all the muscles that are moving inside the character or the creature, right? So it gives you better fluidity, better animation, and it looks more realistic. So that's like the higher
Yeah,
level stuff, right?
that's one component. So maybe I'll give you an overview of what it is that we're building.
That
And
would be great.
yeah, absolutely. So when we started the company 5 years ago, the goal was to be able to make super realistic interactive characters. So in order to make them super realistic and interactive, you first have to make them super realistic. So we didn't want to put any time constraints, like runtime constraints on us in order to achieve the quality that we knew we needed to hit in order to achieve a level of realism that everyone could buy into. So the domain of problems or tooling that we're looking at using to solve our problem was we would write a elastic solid simulator to simulate the soft tissue of creatures and humans and that sort of thing. And that bit of technology, we released that as a commercial product, wrapped in a Maya plugin called Ziva VFX. But that Ziva VFX tool is just kind of one component of the overall framework that we've been working on. And the next thing which we had an early prototype on, like back in 2016, was our Ziva RT technology. And what that is it's a machine learning tool that allows you to ingest the output of our simulation and then dramatically increase the runtime performance. So something will go from taking seconds or minutes of a time step to compute to being milliseconds. And like in some of the current use cases that we have assets that are very typical of game resolution characters that are used in AAA games today, running in around the 1 millisecond time frame on the CPU, and then we have ones on the GPU which are actually running faster than that. So the whole idea was that we would build out the technology framework that we needed in order to fulfill that vision. And so that involves offline simulation, machine learning for real-time use cases, and then kinematics in order to make sure that the inputs into the simulation are follow physically plausible laws as well. And that's the tooling around that will first make its be visible in this product called Zoa, which is coming out later this year as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you've been pretty successful with your clients, and I think I spoke with somebody on your team that you're kind of doing a lot of stuff, not only the product stuff, but you're also working a little bit on outsourcing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if you could maybe mention some of your biggest clients or like the biggest projects that you worked on.
Sure. I'm just trying to think of what I can and can't talk about in that regard, because with some of these outsourcing cases, it is kind of bound inside of non-disclosures.
Mhm, mhm. I mean, mention somebody that you can talk about, because I know that
Uh,
your software was used like in Game of Thrones, like a
oh
bunch of
yeah, certainly. Well, I mean,
high
like
level stuff.
I got you. Like so, like a lot of those are visual effects customers that
Hmm.
purchase Ziva VFX. I mean, a lot of those are like kind of the leaders in the visual effects domain. So Scanline's a customer of ours, Sony Pictures, ImageWorks is a customer of ours. They were actually our first customer. So when Ziva VFX was still in beta, Sony decided that they really wanted to use it on the Ghostbusters reboot and Suicide Squad. So they used a pre-release version of our software to create both Slimer and the Enchantress body replacement for the end of the film in
Mhm.
Suicide Squad. And then other customers include Double Negative, Trickster, Mr. X. We have like over 100 like kind of high profile visual effects companies that are using it right now.
Mhm. Mhm. Cool. And obviously, you just made a big splash in the news about your most recent investment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it seems like an incredible opportunity for you guys, and also like a huge responsibility probably on your shoulders. So, can you give us a little bit about the history of this deal? How did you work on it? Because I mean, our readers are, I think there's a lot of people who are doing like startups in
Yep.
VFX and in games, and it would be very interesting to learn about your journey, so to speak, to this, and how does it work like to work like with these big guys, especially something like Christian Robotics and Toyota, and there's like New Horizon Fine, like all those like huge
Yeah, it's.
players.
I mean, one thing that I've sort of found, like I've been really fortunate in my life to be able to, interact with a lot of really high performing people, like all in groups, like all the ones you just mentioned, and usually the ones who are the most high performing and the most capable are the ones who are the most, direct and normal in many ways, like where politics and that sort of stuff doesn't really play a big part in their process. I guess because that's probably a big part of why they've been successful is they're really about the work and about trying to achieve results and don't get distracted by games, which is really great. As far as how this specific round of financing shaped up, it was we're in many ways. I mean, like life you work really hard and try to do your best, and then life sometimes will just throw really great opportunities your way, and this one was very much one of those where one of the investors, Ray Chung from Millennium Technology Value Partners, found us through, he was doing some background research on machine learning in the visual effects space and stumbled across our company and reached out of the blue. So it wasn't, in order to start that dialogue, it wasn't anything that we had actively done in order to make it happen, even though we were at that time actively looking to raise financing. The route that ultimately paid out for us was different to the one which we thought we were going to take in a good way. So that was pretty interesting. And then Ray, managed to bring in Dimitri and also Toyota AI. And Dimitri, obviously, and Grisham Robotics are amazingly well-positioned partners for the ambitions that Ziva has is being able to participate in gaming. Like his experience in that domain is really fantastically well aligned to that ambition. And all three of those investors have been really helpful so far in helping to not just like with money, but in being able to help support the organization building that we need to do in order to really unlock the potential of what our technology represents.
I think you're kind of breaking the template here, saying that you weren't actually looking for. I mean, you were looking, but you were not like actively going from door to door, so like to invest in
Well,
it.
actually, I guess for clarity, we were doing that, but we didn't find these investors; they found us. So we were really lucky because we couldn't have found like were lucky they found us because
Mhm.
it's such a great alignment in that way. Yeah.
I guess there is kind of like this myth that in order to do something like that and to, to do this like elevated pitch to the right person at the right time, you kind of have to be like in the Bay Area, somewhere near San Francisco, and you have to be in this whole, you know, mess that's going on there, like with all the startups, all the like people, and you know, all those stories. But I guess you're not like from there, right? So you're not doing this active.
Yeah, I think maybe there was a time when that was absolutely the case, and I think the odds are still probably like we probably I think the odds of us raising significant financing probably we probably would have raised it earlier had we been located there, but there has been a trend that I've read about where there are investors are looking further abroad now for opportunities, just because the Bay Area is it's just been so trodden over as far as you know. There are talented people the world over, I guess, is what it comes down to, and San Francisco investors are starting to notice that, I guess.
I mean, I'm here like in Los Angeles, and we kind of start feeling that as well. Because I
Hmm.
mean, I had a funny encounter. Um, so I have like one guy who's doing like a very interesting startup, also like in AI powered for games.
Hmm.
And I say, well, I kind of have access sort of like to Grishan, and I can introduce you, so maybe you'd be interested. And he's like, I really appreciate your effort, but we're getting approached so
Yeah,
from all those different people, and sometimes they're like not really investors, and they're like a very small team, so they have to work. And he's like saying, maybe we shouldn't do it, like because maybe they're not serious. And I'm like, man, that's Grisham, that's like the founder of Mail.ru. I mean, he
yeah,
existed, and he's like, oh, okay, so I
yeah,
can do it. That was the funniest thing. To my next question, I think this is one of the things that a lot of people are interested in. So, um, what are investors are actually looking for right now? Because what you're doing is sort of like a very big hot topic and direction right now,
hmm,
mixing AI with something like with your pipeline, with game development pipeline in particular. And a lot of companies are in this place. There's a lot of startups doing fantastic stuff. So I'm guessing like machine learning and AI is one part of it, but maybe there are more things that you can sort of share with us, and uh,
yeah,
for us to understand like the logic behind their decision is what
for sure.
these or
Yeah,
not.
yeah. I mean, I think we kind of separate ourselves in a number of different ways. Like, so first off, like we have machine learning technology, but that sort of goes hand in hand with our physics solver. And because in our case, we're using, like it's kind of like it's not technically this, but it behaves like this, where it's like a model-based reinforcement learning, where like in our case, our model is a physical simulation of the character. So we can synthesize as much data as we need to in order to make sure that we populate the domain really effectively. Like one of the sort of maybe it's not talked about so much, but one of the things that make AI and machine learning problems challenging is marshaling up of all your data and making sure that it's presented in a good way for the algorithm to ingest. We have the benefit of having perfect data to feed into it because it's synthetic. From a technology standpoint, I think that's one element that sort of separates us and has helped us to sort of achieve highly realistic results at scale in a way which would be very difficult to do with a pure photogrammetry approach for ingestion. The second space where I think we separate ourselves from a lot of the other companies in this space is our team is cross-disciplinary and has been from day one. Like where we're a group of, we have like world-leading engineers, like Yerny Barbik, my co-founder and CTO of the company. He's an associate professor at University of Southern California. Is an MIT 35 under 35, a Sloan Fellow. Like he's like a world leader in this domain. And then the rest of our team, on the engineering side, is up to that kind of a standard where everyone's really high performers. And then from in my background, I came through the visual effects and animation industry. Worked like a number of years at Weta Digital, which is Peter Jackson's visual effects company in New Zealand, and myself and Simon Clutterbuck, who's also on the team here at Ziva, we won a Science and Engineering Academy Award for work that we did while at what a digital. So, and then the art sort of side of our team has sort of been we've handpicked team members which will help to reinforce that aspect of what we're doing. So we sort of have this really phenomenal engineering talent tied at the hip with this really great artistic group, and when you can get both of them working together in a really collaborative way, I think the sum total, like the total, is greater than the sum of its parts.
So I see like the background should be, I mean, your background is kind of incredible. It's like years or years of SIGGRAPH papers kind of like going into this
Yeah,
all endeavors.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's I think like just the Ziva VFX part of it by itself probably represents like if you were to sort of pick it apart for different concepts, or maybe implementations might be different, but you just sort of look at concepts that might have come up in SIGGRAPH over the years. It's probably 20 different papers that are just part of that one thing. Right? So
So the technology background, the theoretical background for this is like incredible.
yeah,
That's maybe the where you get this competitive notches to all the other things floating around.
yeah,
In, in term,
and we do have like our art team really does act as the best internal customers. We're pushing the limits of what the software can do before our customers encounter those any friction. So we're trying to make sure that the software is as elegant as it can be in order to achieve results, which are difficult to do even with the best of software, but would be impossible otherwise.
so, can you formulate maybe like in short for us, like how are you gonna utilize that investment? What are you gonna heavily invest in? Is it gonna be like a sales more or R&D or some other stuff? You don't have to go like super in detail if you can't, but
Sure.
it would be interesting to understand like um, again, speaking from the readers that we have, that when you
Mhm.
finally get the investment, what is the way that you should approach it, not to waste it, not make the most use of it, so to speak?
Sure. So in this first sort of stage, we're being really laser focused to make sure that we're addressing the needs of the AAA game companies. So as far as the talent that we're adding to our team, we're adding engineering talent that has the appropriate background, has worked in the game industry ideally, or in many cases, like we look for either we've had really good fortune with a number of people with from academia, but with like advanced degrees, whether it's in physics or something like a related thing like computational geometry or something like that. Just those people usually are just really good at most things that you throw at them, so they end up being really great at being able to write really optimal code, which isn't necessarily a commonly held view. But yeah, if you can pair up people like that with people with relevant experience in industry, so that they know what the hard constraints are, that you're writing against, and also, give a be a good representative of what the pain points are for our customers. We've sort of found that that gives a good outcome. So we're growing our engineering team, we're growing our art team to help support that endeavor, and also with this early sort of adoption stage where we're targeting like the best, and the brightest companies out there. We're looking to sort of give them white glove treatment, so that we make sure that there's little friction as we get our middleware out there and our products out there into that new market. And we want to make sure that everyone's happy with the whole process. So that involves us making sure that we can support them on all those sorts of fronts. Additionally, with an increase in the size of the team, that obviously impacts our operations and our IT infrastructure. And then if we are, you hit the success that we're planning to this year, then a more broad offering will be available to everyone. In which case, we'll need to increase our, customer success and sales teams at that point.
So I guess my next question kind of sums it up. So you're at this avant-garde, like at this forefront of the new tech in 3D and like in VFX and all. So what would you say are the big next steps for the technology and for the workflows? Because right now we see a lot of people playing with photogrammetry and 3D scanning. We see Unreal Engine doing this incredible Unreal Engine 5 demo with all the heavy geometry there. We also see a lot of artificial intelligence startups, a lot of stuff that NVIDIA is doing with AI, where you can basically put a couple of colors on the, you know, on on the screen, and you get like a generated image which looks like a
Mhm.
photo. So there's so much going on, and then we hear artists expressing concerns, saying that, well, maybe like if it goes like this, then I will be out of job, and like probably
Yeah,
something like that happened before like Substance Designer came out, and people who were doing like ZBrush textures, they were like, oh no, I'm gonna be unemployed, and now everybody's fine. But
yeah. I think Substance is a really good example of a company which is doing something, yeah, in a way that we really admire. Like they've made a really fantastic tool for creative people to be able to do more at a higher quality, and that's really like at a fundamental level who we are and what we're trying to make. We want to make make it possible for creative people out there to fulfill their dream as far as the thing that they want to make. And we don't want them. We don't want people like, because we felt this pain personally. Like you don't want to spend all of your time just getting an asset up to that 50% point. Like it would be, wouldn't it be great if you can get it to that 90% point much more quickly, and then focus on doing the things that's going to separate what you're doing from what the person next to you has chosen to do. And we're really looking to try to make it as easy and seamless as possible for people to really focus on the creative and not get hung up on technical limitations. So that's kind of like our philosophy. But as far as where like kind of specific next steps go, I think a lot of that ends up coming down to, again, trying to simplify the user experience. Right now, when you're building a character simulation, there is still a significant learning curve in order to get a sense of how you adjust some parameters and what the expected output would be from the simulator when you've done them that way. But I mean, that is like a perfect problem for optimization and machine learning to solve, and to it'd be better to be able to, similar to what you sort of seen in rendering, for example, like where you have inverse sort of rendering type stuff happening. There's the same sort of opportunity exists in physical like dynamic simulation,
mhm.
and in that sort of thing. So we'll be definitely trending along that line. But before we even get to that, there's still no shortage of just really useful, more fundamental things that would be great to add uh, to make the product more usable for our customers.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's an incredible story, very inspiring. So I hope our readers enjoy it. And if you're looking for someone like technical artist or something like that, you can always jump to 80 level. There's like a lot of people like that, very talented.
Awesome. Yeah,
So I'm
we
sure you'll
are.
be able to find
I
someone there.
will be. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.